Recording.
Woohoo! That's the most important thing, is that it's recorded. So I want to thank everyone for coming. And today, for this session, we're going to talk about design friction in AI. And so our friction creators or friction resolvers, or our learning design lubricants, I don't know. Kay and Brandon are here to help out and have a discussion. So I will turn it over to them, and they can go ahead and get started.
Hey everybody. Yeah, I have slides. I can't help it. I've tried to run away from slides, but I haven't yet. I will soon. Don't worry about it. Welcome everybody. I'm Kay Novak. I'm the assistant director of learning design at Front Range Community College.
Don't sell yourself short. You almost, brought yourself down to my level. That's never a
No,
good
no.
thing. My name is Brandon Poulliot. I am an instructional designer and technologist at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs.
And we have worked together. We have worked together a lot.
For the past, what, like 15, 16 years, somewhere around there, between Elk and me being a student employee long time ago.
Yes. So we've worked together and we've shared a lot of ideas and this today is is just sharing out some of the things we're seeing when it comes to learning design and AI. I know there's blogs out there that says, learning design is going to go away, instructional design is going to go away. And but the experience of everyone who's working as a learning designer is seeing that people definitely still need us. They're probably going to need us for a while. And I will tell you, when it came to the whole AI apocalypse or revolution, however, or evolution, however you want to think about it, I got excited. One, because I come from the set of instructional designers who also had to constantly also be educational technologists at the same time. So I come from that generation where you were everything. And whatever the problem was, you solved it, fixed it, helped people. So for me, I always had the ed tech side. And so this, like this showing up, made me happy. I went, oh, new things to play with. And also this AI evolution has given us a chance to look at our courses, how we design them, and to quite honestly up the ante. Um, it's an opportunity to make our courses better. So that's the place I'm coming from. And if you were just at the AI tokenization, you'll also know that while I'm optimistic, I will question the complexity of things, and I will also go ahead and make lots of I will take a critical lens to things. So Brandon, where are you coming from when it comes to this whole AI and learning design?
I am trying to go both routes. I am trying to, and I think that, this is one of the mantras of both instructional design and ed tech is meet them where they are. And so I am trying to become knowledgeable. I'm trying to look at AI as a whole from a critical perspective, look at kind of the micro level at individual institutions, and I am trying to break it in new and interesting ways, which I think is a fundamental drive that instructional technologists should kind of have. Like, give me a tool, I'm gonna try and break it. Let's see what happens.
That's a great way to look at it. And I'm going to say, anybody who wants to type in how they're feeling about AI and learning design, go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to call on two people. I'm going to call on Chris and Mouse and ask them if they're willing to come on mic and just say, how are you feeling about AI And yes, you'll see Chris and Mouse knew it. How are the two of you guys feeling about AI and learning design? What are your
I
thoughts?
feel that we inherit the wonderful place of being the meters of unrealistic expectation.
Oh.
Where everyone is like, I want this, but I want it slick, I want it authentic, I want it this, and I want students to actually read the content we have in our classes. And the challenge with that is it might be unrealistic. Like I said, I have students that pop in classes and the first thing they look at is what's due that day, and then they try to
Mm,
take the assessment without ever have reading any of the content. And how I know this is because I can go in and look and I see on our LMS that they never clicked on the actual content tab where it's there, or they never actually like access their book.
I mean, unless they're using Einstein, right? Because then everything has been accessed and viewed and read and
Mm,
completed.
and
So
and
that
I'll,
and
rarely happens with my students. Checklists never get fully filled out.
so I'll say I think a lot of my job as learning designer is tech support and managing a lot of tech aspects of the LMS primarily. And I love having AI because it serves as a really good manual question backboard for when I get jammed up and we use D2L. So when I get jammed up in D2L, I can ask like, hey, how do you do this? What are some options? And so I think it's a great tool for that aspect of it, just as a resource. So.
so I was gonna say, anybody else who wants to get on mic or type in there, what like what are your thoughts? Doing or being a learning designer or doing learning design in this I call it AI evolution. And I'll just give it a little bit. Don't worry, we
Yeah,
can
I was gonna
fill.
say, I don't think we gave the spiel of we're breezy. Like you have a question, like
Mm,
just come on out. Like we love tangents.
yeah, and so I feel like, oh, Sheila, wanting to do more than I know how to do or software I'm familiar with in course development. I will tell you, Sheila, for me, I feel like I've been so busy looking at the educational aspects, I'm not looking at the productivity as much as I should. And I feel like I need to do more. And I know, and I'm seeing, sometimes I talk about, having, well, we have the tool now, let's find the problem, which is actually the opposite of what you're supposed to do if you're an instructional designer and educational technologist. But also I feel like I keep needing to know more. Anybody else? Oh, Scarlett, you've turned into the enforcer of our AI policies these days. And Scarlett, are you in a learning design or educational technology position, or are you in a student success, student services kind of position?
I'm the instructional designer. Yeah, I work with subject matter experts
Uh-huh.
and help, you know, build the online courses and things
Hmm.
like that. So I'm technically the instructional designer, but I also end up doing a lot of ed tech because there's only one of me, and
Yes.
you know how that is. But yeah, lately it's been everyone's kind of gone crazy with the AI and are having to remind people not to put anything in there that has students' IP addresses, names, email
Hmm.
addresses, things like that. People not really paying attention to the policies or even really knowing how AI is using what they're putting in there. So I feel like I'm doing a lot of damage control lately.
Yeah, I will say, with Chris and I, we've presented at Elk about data justice. I'm now seeing people use the term like digital sovereignty. I'm hearing that from people I had never heard that from before, and I'm also seeing where we have to talk to people. I cringe when somebody goes, "Oh, well, I just put the student assignment in there." I'm like, how did you put that student assignment into that AI to check it? Are other learning designers
Well,
having that too?
like that and digital millennial copyright issues and everything else that's going on with it. I mean, I've seen a lot more discussions and had a lot more discussions with IP and IP protection and how fair is fair use. Uh, and looking at how to like should instructors self-disclose whenever they use AI to
Mm,
their students? That if they have a strict policy of students, shouldn't they also model that policy as well in their own work? So it's kind of interesting to see where we're seeing these conversations going, which is really interesting because I've had folks who never talked about copyright or
mm,
any sort of infringement or that, and now they're coming and saying, "Hey, what about this? What about this? What about this?"
and
That and the other thing I see a lot is since I work with manufacturers, is
mm,
how do we recreate a blueprint diagram
mm,
without giving the answers to questions in the description, in the written description of the image for alt text. So that's also something else that I'm seeing more of, is trying to
mm,
figure out, they're more aware that they need to do alt text, and that
mm,
it's so some of the accessibility things are coming more to light, which is good. But now they're dealing with additional conundrums with how do I go ahead and figure out um, this new solution, where before, if I write exactly what it says, like I write down what the width, the length, the width, the things, whatever is in the write up, and then I'm asking them the same questions about, like, to answer the actual quiz or whatever, then how do they handle that?
and Lou put in there that professors are scared of it taking over their entire workspace. Yeah, understand why the fear is there, but if your workspace wasn't automated to begin with, um, and you're really teaching the classes and not totally relying on publisher content, homework managers and stuff like that, I'm less scared about that. And then from Angela, model what we want our students to do. I agree. I believe faculty are using AI. Why not put that little blurb thing at the end that lets them know that? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to switch over to, because we started talking about you as a learning designer. We'll get back to this design friction and AI. And I wasn't really trying to be make it a metaphor, the title of the metaphor, but more like a design challenge. And if Chris or anybody else can go ahead and put the links from this, feel free to put the links from this. So what we're gonna throw out to you is this article. It came out, I want to say everything that seems like it came out in December. This started to get discussed in there's a listserv called AI in Education. This article got passed around there. And and because I'm a designer, I like the idea of it. Um, Reflective friction in generative AI, designing for slow thinking in fast systems. And you can read the article. It's only 4 pages, so it's gonna make it really easy to read. 4 pages. But I will tell you, when I talk to faculty, I often tell them I often tell them just read page 3, because that's where the table is. So this article came out, but design friction is not new in the design field. Okay, design friction, and you can read this, but really it's it's in your UX, your UI design for websites and mobile devices and things like that. It's, instead of being totally intuitive, it makes somebody stop. And the most often, the one that you probably deal with on a daily basis is when you try to delete something and it asks, do you really want to delete this? That's it. That's an example of friction. It stops the flow of what you're doing, and it makes you pause. So when the article came out about using reflective friction, because you're making the assumption your students are going to use AI, so they're going to go fast, how do you have them slow down things? So it's called, the author of the article calls it reflective friction. I have a habit of, I have a habit of going straight back to design friction because I know what design friction is. And design friction can affect users' levels of satisfaction. And some of the ways that in websites and mobile devices and technology, designer friction shows up is putting micro boundaries before you can go from one thing to another. It's also design that slows down the pace of things, and it's also sometimes uncomfortable interaction. So these things might not normally be considered positive, but if we're designing projects or assignments that you know that students are using AI, you might want to put in these kinds of speed bumps. These speed bumps that let them slow down, let them have to reflect on something, let them think about the AI they're using, going back and asking additional questions and things like that. So here's the full article here. You can read it from the link that Brandon shared. And like I said, it's 4 pages. It goes really fast. And if you're the kind of and you can put it in Notebook LM if you feel like it. But the paper builds on the line of thinking by introducing reflective friction. Rather than treating interruptions as a breakdown, it frames it as small intentional disruptions as a way to support more deliberate, engaged interaction. And there it says, the aim is to slow down cognitive automation just enough to reintroduce choice, judgment, or perspective taking into the loop. In the earlier session, we were talking about vibe coding and vibe spending. Yes, Chris, we will get to hard fun. It is. And Kay, it is putting metacognition in there. So absolutely great comments. Please keep putting them in there. Now, on page 3 of this, it introduces these kinds of friction types. And I love this image because if you're starting to really think about using AI in a project, why not? You can put it in AI, or you can just have this page open and start thinking about what exactly can I put in there? Can I have them? Can I ask them a question or give them part of an assignment where they have to compare things? Can I ask them to show the steps of something so I can see how they're going through things and also how they're looking at things? If they're using AI, can I ask them to jump to another, say, AI system, or to question it? Or this is the time that they go into, for me, the Aurora Library database, and they have to look up articles that support it or don't support it. Add a prompt back. They might have gotten something from AI, and now you're asking them to explain the differences. And I love reverse the output, and this is a very design way of thinking of it. But how many people have seen the movie World War Z? Okay, so where are my zombie fans? Are there a lot of zombie movie survivor fans in here? Sorry, I'm putting a lot of pop culture into it. If you are, feel free to type a Y or to type what your favorite zombie movie is. But I'm not seeing there's a lot of people like that, so I will move on. But in the movie World War Z, which is a zombie movie, they have the concept of the 10th man. And Zombieland, thank you. I'm going World War Z, but Brad Pitt plays the Shaun of the Dead. Oh yeah. Okay. Brad Pitt plays the protagonist in that. And he is the person that they task to try to help come up with a solution and to find the people to put together to do this solution. And what they talk about in the movie is the 10th man. And the 10th man is pretty much a construct. And it's if nine people, if there are 10 people in a room and nine people agree that this should be the solution, there has to be a 10th person who has to argue the difference. And so for me, reverse the output is the 10th man. That for every time that you're making the argument or you think you found the solution, what's the other thing? What's the other side of it? And I think that's a really good way to put design friction in there. Highlight blind spots or asking them for reasons. So these are the kind of design friction that, and it won't be automatic. Okay. It won't be automatic, and you'll have to do it 2 or 3 times before you get like talking about it the way you say you talk about Bloom's taxonomy to people. But these are some of the ways we can see the evolution of our learning design could go. Okay.
So I just
Take it.
wanted to say, I think one of the only things that this was missing for me, this short paper, right?
Yeah.
Um, is actual alignment with a taxonomy, right? Which of these
Okay.
strategies is best for what you're doing, right? If
Actually, that's great. Yeah.
right, I mean, you could go Bloom's, right? But you could
Yeah.
go depth of knowledge, right? You could do any number of taxonomies or even create your own to align this with the assessment that you're looking at, or even if it's formative, right? What is going to be most helpful on the topic that you're on? Don't just, throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Do it a little more systematically with a taxonomy aligned with it. And what the article does mention, what does touch on, is none of this is meant to be frustrating or go above the student's head, right? This is all meant to empower the student and enhance their understanding, enhance their learning, rather than, well, more so, a lot more so than giving them the answer.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a design challenge, so we're not presenting this as, oh my gosh, this is the research and this is the rule. This is something that was put out there as a possibility. The other thing, and some of the same authors are on these pages. So Sweden and Denmark's doing great with design friction. Okay. I like this one because this one, and this is not focused on education. This is not focused on teaching with AI, but design friction and digital nudging. I just love this. Just because, yeah, I think maybe we do have to nudge somewhere in there. That besides the design friction, we might be, it was only a gentle design nudge. Yes. There were some of the things about the being about coercive nudges that I did not put here. And I mean, like this is us as learning designers or as instructors. If we want to go all educational technology, this is Vygotsky's. This is the zone of proximal development where we, as the more knowledgeable other, give a nudge or a little bit of help so that it can go on. Yes, I was not nagging, I was nudging. So I wanted to throw that out there. The design friction, with the design friction, as suggested, and this is not from an educational theory, but from designers, maybe you have to nudge a little with the design friction. And I just threw that back there. I was thinking we'd go through these, but everybody close your eyes. I'm going to go through it real fast because at this point, I'm like, we're not going to go through it. Those were one by one. We don't need that. The other thing I was going to throw out for design friction is also, and I know that there's some blogs out there that educators and people who write about instructional design, design learning, have already talked about like the prototyping portion of design thinking. This is from the D.school at Stanford. It's the classical one. This is completely OER. You can get a 47-page PDF on how to do design thinking that you can give to your students, and you can work with it, or you can just work with it with your learning design team. Okay. Yeah, IDEO. Exactly. So when it comes to this, when we're talking about design friction, this could also slow this down a bit. Now, if you take a look at the classical design thinking from Stanford's D.school, and you go through it, you'll look, oh yeah, I had my students do these, but this is more, and someone wrote already about it, metacognition. This is more where you can have them purposely think about each of these phases and discuss why they made decisions for these different phases. And this is designing, so this is building something. So it would work good in a class where students have to come up with a outward looking project, any kind of business or marketing project, but you can have them slow down by stopping and doing each of these phases. And the phases that really slows them down, the first one is empathize. Okay? A lot of students I've seen who jump into marketing classes or even jump into my business and creative industry classes, they make an assumption. they do it as if I wasn't assigning this as an outward facing project. They do it like, oh yeah, if I read up this one thing on who the consumer is, I know who the consumer is. The design thinking model really does slow them down, where they have to do the empathize, they have to define, ideate, prototype. When you get to prototyping, that is something that chances are you can give it to your students to use AI. And while we're talking about design friction, the prototyping is one area I would say in a lot of classes, the prototyping is the part that the students in the science class can't necessarily do, or the students in the intro to business that they can't do well, and AI can give them that nudge. And then, the part about testing ideas and gaining user feedback. It's a way to have students go through things rather than say, oh, write me a marketing plan, write me a business plan. Oh, do this marketing scenario.
Well, I think the other thing I've noticed when going through this is that
Mm.
the challenge for a lot of students is that they want to fly through the ideate session as fast as possible, and they want to go straight from define to prototype. And they don't want to spend any time on the ideate part. It's like, no, you need to slow down and come up with different options, because they're already like, I already know the solution. Or they try to do it with the solution in mind. And it's like, no, you have to think about it and actually base it off of your use cases and your empathize.
So I started to think that the design thinking model could also work really well for design friction and nudges. And that as learning designers, we could we could do that. And Brandon, how you were saying about taking the taxonomy and putting it against the reflective friction strategies. I think we could probably do this because, as learning designers, we love making models and charts.
Or
that
we could have
that
AI do it for us, you know.
Yeah, I does not bother me at all. So, this came out about a week ago, and I'm gonna say everybody Google it or put it into your favorite, your favorite agentic agent that you are using as a search engine. But what's been happening is um, some business CEOs are coming out and saying that not students, but their employees, they are now having them bringing prototypes to meetings and not slide decks. And I brought this out because, it flows from the prototyping step in design thinking, but it's also something we can consider as learning designers. Think about how many projects and how many assignments and how many classes that the deliverable from the student is a slide deck. I like that, Chris. Prototype battle royal. Okay, what is learning designers, if we can start going and then going, rather than a slide deck that that say the student could put into notebook LM or something else and pop the slide deck out. What if the student's going to use AI? that why not see what kind of prototypes can be built? Now, we talked about in earlier sessions things like Lovable that can create websites, can create apps. These are the kind of things that Jack Dorsey is talking about when it comes to a prototype. Rather than the students showing another slide deck of what the idea of what they think they want to do, what if our next step, our next evolution as designers is switching all to prototypes?
Well, and
And,
part of, I'm
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
Kay. I was
No,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say that part of that is, I mean, enabling students, again,
Mhm,
empowering students to do what designers out in the world have done for decades,
mhm,
forever, right? I'm forgetting the name of what the process is called, but especially in software design, right? You look at designing the UX,
mhm,
and look at that first, right? Tailor it to the uh the purpose, right?
mhm,
The everything you need to do with the app, but it's just the UX, right? And so you have that as your prototype. While it might not be fully functional, it communicates your idea so much better and so much more viscerally, right? So that
mhm.
people can feel it than a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, as learning designers, that step of getting people to move from the slide deck to to having the outcome, the deliverable, the assessment being a prototype. That's it's gonna be I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a process because I don't necessarily love processes, but it's going to take us doing some coaching with faculty who are not used to looking at that, who are used to judging the PowerPoint. And then also think about, even when it comes to, say, a communications class, how do you do a presentation on a prototype rather than a slide deck? And I have this up here, and it's just from the Business Insider article, and this was, the thing of it is, maybe we're moving there, and AI can help us with that. I just threw that there again. Okay, and more. So I'm throwing out some words that we know from learning design and educational technology. Okay, this first one is flow. Okay, so if we're doing these design, if we're doing reflective friction, if we are going ahead and stopping students, we're stopping their flow. But their flow might, but what kind of flow are we talking about? Are we talking about the kind where they can where they can put something in perplexity, have perplexity take the quiz, and then come back, 20 minutes later, and then they'll hit the submit button? Okay, what that kind of stuff we can interrupt. I have no problem with us interrupting that. But, and I'm taking this from, game-based learning, game design theory, fun, flow, and Fiero. Okay, so I'm taking the flow part. And yes, the browser submitting your work, that is faux flow. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that alliteration, Chris. And Brandon made the correction in the comment wireframing. Yes. Okay, flow is when you're completely involved in activity for its own sake. Now, if it's learning, yeah, we don't want to necessarily stop this kind of learning, but if it's students just going fast because AI is giving them the answers and they are not cognitively involved, then I'm okay with interrupting the vibe coding, or as we said in the earlier session, vibe spending, or whatever else it is. So I also think that, as learning designers, I think we have a fun opportunity to go back and look at game design and look at some of the features on game design. Like Chris already put in the chat earlier, he was like, oh, that sounds like hard fun. Okay. A lot of AI makes things easy. Where are you going to design for the hard fun in, and by hard fun, I don't mean, like I don't mean things that will discourage students, but where students realize there's a challenge and they are solving that challenge. Where can we design for the hard fun when it comes to AI? And then okay, so if you've ever gamed with me, you might hear me say something like, "Don't steal my Fiero," like I'm saying, like, "Don't steal my egos." But Fiero is that fist bumping that you see in the air when you've done something, when you know that you've accomplished something. That's what Fiero is. And if AI makes everything easy, where can we design for students to get that Fiero, that they feel like they've accomplished something? And that Fiero, it's also the discussion of the proximal zone from Vygotsky, where where students are working on things and they're getting things that are just a little more challenging than what they can do. And I'm going to throw this out here also, that this AI evolution with learning design, it gives us a chance to design for difficulties and disorienting dilemmas. These are things that your students may be able to get some help from AI on, or maybe they can't. It all depends. And if it's straight into transformative learning, and transformative learning is what a lot of us want to design for. A disorientating dilemma is not necessarily a bad thing. It would provide for that reflective friction for the students to do critical self-reflection. Sorry. That looks about the same. And desirable difficulties. Goes back to hard fun. Are we designing for this? And not so that students quit or get so frustrated that they won't continue, but as learning designers, if we can hit these, if we can hit these different areas when it comes to design, I think that will be phenomenal. And with this AI evolution, we're getting the chance to look at learning design all over again, because it's not status quo for us anymore. And then of course I love wicked problems. so so when it comes to these kind of wicked problems, us designing this for, I will tell you this. I have a whole presentation on wicked problems with my nursing faculty. And the reason we did wicked problems for nursing faculty, it was in a nursing communications class. And it was, when you talk to one patient, what you have to say to them is not necessarily the same that you would say to the next patient. And there's all these different experiences and personalities that can come up. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that we can have our students focus on rather than, rote answers. And so this is pretty much the end of the presentation. We can definitely talk more. What I wanted to do was to invite anybody who wants to come. We are doing on May 18th at the FRCC Boulder County campus, if you're located in Colorado. We're doing an AI design thinking sprint with 15 of our instructors or faculty, and we invite all the learning designers and everybody else who would like to participate to come to this, if you would like. So thank you everybody. And Brandon, why don't you talk more about the question that you put there?
Sure. So, I'm literally looking for a question, a problem, a conceptual understanding that you might pose to your students where they might use AI just to give them the answer. They Google it and have the Gemini at the top and just take that for dogma and move on or use ChatGPT or anything like that. So I'm looking for somebody to share a question, problem, concept check, knowledge check that they might pose to students so that I can test something that I want to share. All right, that's as long as I can let my instructor pause go. So,
Somebody
somebody put it in chat.
yeah.
What are the
Kay
advantages and
Powell did.
disadvantages of using? Okay, so I'm gonna grab this. Kay, if you wanna uh riff for a little bit, I'm gonna test this and then I'll share it.
Okay. What I was going to say that this session, like I said, we don't have the answers, but we think that there's great opportunities for us as learning designers. And look, if you're faculty, there's great opportunities for you to consider these things for your classes too. So these were some things that we've been reading about. We'll continue to develop it. Please feel free to run with these things in whatever way you would like to run with them. Oh, there's another one. What are some of the common criticisms of the International Monetary Fund?
All right, so let me make this the right size. And for the second question, I will throw it in and you can watch it live. We'll see if this actually provided the answer or if it did what it's supposed to do. So this is an experiment that I threw together for the purposes of testing out whether I could get a reflective friction bot out of a custom GPT. And so I've thrown that in here. It has the knowledge of the article that I threw in, and that's about it. I gave it system instructions of what to do. And it says, before I give you a clean list, let me add a bit of useful friction your professor's probably looking for. They expecting a simple list? Do they want you to show critical evaluation? I'll give you both. So it looks like it is going to provide an answer, but we can look. Advantages of using organizational behavior theories, better understanding of employee behavior, improved decision making, enhanced productivity and performance, conflict management, organizational development and change. Disadvantages: overgeneralization, lack of flexibility in practice. So you see, it gave you what I would consider maybe an answer. So obviously needs refining, but it does have more critical insight, one step further to level things up, how to conclude, and a reflection. So what I would ask in chat is whether this is an answer or whether it really kind of follows the provide reflective friction for the student. So if you want to throw that in there, I will do the second one real quick.
And Brendan likes it, like has fun with bots. So this is a bot example.
Okay, so this is going with underlying assumptions. Um, it imposes harsh economic conditions, one size fits all policies, loss of national sovereignty, bias towards wealthy nations, social impact often overlooked. Contrasting to deepen the answer, right? So it's giving tension. The IMF's goal is economic stability and growth. Critics argue it can produce short-term harm and long-term dependency. And here's a stronger conclusion. It seems like it's giving, things that it probably shouldn't. But then it does give a quick reflection there as well. So again, I'd ask for feedback on whether this is giving just the answer or if it's providing that reflection, and that reflective friction that we're looking for.
My thoughts are a little fine tuning.
I would agree.
I would say a bit of fine tuning. I think it's on its way.
Yeah, and so it still seems to give answers, which is not what it's supposed to do, but um, with a little extra knowledge that I can throw in there, as well as maybe some fine tuning of the system prompt. This might be a useful pursuit to kind of share this out with folks who are interested in
Yeah.
not necessarily automating this process. I don't think that's fully possible, but in exploring kind of how this can be used as an addition, a tutor, something more than even a review bot, right? Something more than an answer provider.
Okay, so we're pretty much at time. So we're gonna have to jump up now, and jump out now. So the recordings are going up. Um, we will be putting slides in the presenter slide portion in Discord. We'll also ask any presenter who hasn't already shared their slides if they'd be willing to share their slides there too in the Discord. So that will be coming up. So I'm going to say thank you for listening to some of our thoughts. I would love for anybody here to come back next year and do a session on their thoughts of this. Yeah, the zone of proximal development. ZPT. I love it. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.